Hey there, friends of good and evil. My monsters and I are absolutely thrilled to welcome you back once again to your favorite channel, Philomania, the ultimate destination where we enthusiastically dive deep into the fascinating and expansive universe of collectible pocket knives, thoroughly exploring every intriguing detail that makes these blades so appealing and exciting to knife enthusiasts and collectors just like us. Today, we're diving into a quick yet comprehensive review of the iconic Hinderer Jurassic knife. This exceptional piece is already widely recognized as a true classic, proudly and meticulously manufactured right here in the USA. Originally released back in 2017, it has had plenty of time to firmly establish itself and earn a solid, well-deserved reputation among knife lovers and dedicated collectors alike. Given the extensive number of detailed and thorough reviews already out there on YouTube and various other platforms, today we're aiming to keep things concise yet uniquely engaging by taking a slightly different and creative approach. Specifically, we're going to customize this knife by installing a brand new set of titanium scales that I recently acquired. These new scales are certain to give the knife a completely refreshed appearance, and they'll also add a bit of additional weight, something I personally really appreciate because it enhances overall handling, giving the knife a sturdier, more substantial feel in your hand. Before we jump into this exciting and engaging installation process, let's briefly set those new scales aside and take a close, detailed look at exactly how this remarkable knife is built. The Jurassic knife was initially inspired by the legendary XM18 model crafted by renowned knife maker Rick Hinderer. However, for this particular Jurassic version, the design team thoughtfully incorporated subtle yet meaningful enhancements to the handle to significantly improve ergonomics, comfort, and overall user experience. It's not at all that the XM18 was uncomfortable. In fact, it's famously known for having excellent ergonomics, but rather that the Jurassic has been specifically refined and fine-tuned to offer even better comfort, control, and usability, especially beneficial during extended use periods. Further down the handle, you'll observe two precisely positioned and smoothly contoured concave grooves. These grooves naturally guide your index and middle fingers into an ideal resting spot, enhancing your grip, stability, and overall comfort significantly when using the knife. These carefully designed ergonomic features truly transform what was already a great knife into an exceptional, highly usable, and comfortable tool. We've also got some other interesting and well-thought-out components here. Let's take the thumb studs, for instance. These small but essential elements interact effectively with the black G10 handle scales, serving as reliable blade stoppers when you deploy the blade. But they're not limited to just that. They also conveniently double as an alternative method of blade deployment. Essentially, you have two practical and intuitive options for opening the knife. Either the flipper tab conveniently located at the top, or the thumb studs positioned slightly lower for easy access. It's important to mention that using the thumb studs isn't actually more difficult or complicated. It just might appear that way right now because I have the camera positioned directly in front of my face, making it slightly challenging to demonstrate clearly. Trust me though, under normal conditions, deploying the blade using the thumb studs is incredibly intuitive, straightforward, and effortless. Additionally, at the top of the blade, there's some very well-executed jimping, providing an exceptionally comfortable and secure resting spot for your thumb, significantly improving your grip, overall control, and precision when using the knife. Moving toward the back of the handle, you'll find a thoughtfully designed and carefully constructed backspacer. This component can be conveniently removed if you're looking to slightly reduce the knife's overall weight. All you need to do is simply unscrew this small torque screw right here. Can you clearly see it? It's located right there, and once that's done, you're all set. Now, Hinderer is a brand that's widely known and respected for offering fully customizable knife parts. What this means is that, just as I've chosen to buy this titanium scale set in bronze, which, by the way, is actual bronze-colored titanium scale set in bronze, not just a superficial coloring, you also have the freedom and flexibility to pick out matching pocket clips, different thumb studs, and even decorative tabs, those small titanium inserts that come in a variety of unique and interesting designs. You might choose something commemorating the year your knife was manufactured, a specific pattern you find attractive, or simply your favorite color. The main point here is that you can completely customize the knife according to your personal preferences, making it uniquely yours in every detail. Moreover, you can even swap out the pivot screws and other hardware elements. They're readily available in an impressive array of colors such as black, red, blue, yellow, and basically any other color you could imagine. Ultimately, by carefully selecting these customizable components, you'll end up with a genuinely one-of-a-kind piece, fully chosen and personalized by you. Now, it's important to mention that these custom parts and accessories certainly tend to be on the pricier side. That's hardly surprising. After all, customization is a significant part of Hinderer's brand and business model. But honestly, that's also one of the coolest and most appealing aspects of owning a knife from this premium brand. Rick Hinderer, the highly respected designer behind this line of knives, initially introduced the Jurassic model back in 2017. Since that time, he has consistently expanded the product lineup, continually releasing new components, parts, and accessories that enable users to personalize their knives even further and in increasingly creative ways. As I mentioned earlier, today we'll be installing these new titanium scales onto the knife. You'll quickly notice that these particular scales have been carefully laser cut with an intricate pattern to reduce unnecessary weight, adding to both the aesthetics and functionality. The brand's logo is prominently and clearly visible, and you'll also notice this detailed engraving. This is the iconic horse logo, which serves as Hinderer's distinctive brand emblem. The original scales, by comparison, are crafted from a material known as G10, a high-quality, textured, high-friction plastic composite. This material is especially useful and practical for a wide variety of tasks because its texture helps prevent your hands from slipping, providing excellent grip even in challenging conditions, such as when your hands are wet or oily. So yeah, if you're planning on performing hard work or heavy-duty tasks, the G10 scales are truly fantastic. In contrast, though, these titanium scales represent something more premium, essentially luxury pieces designed to elevate your knife aesthetically and functionally. The titanium finish is smooth to the touch, quite similar in feel to polished steel, with the only textured area being the low-relief horse logo engraving. While this engraving does offer a slight additional grip, that isn't really its primary purpose. This knife isn't one that I plan to take into rugged environments like the jungle or use to chop wood. Rather, it's meant to be appreciated as a collector's item, a knife that I genuinely admire, carry with pride, and thoroughly enjoyed, yet also carefully protect. Having said all that, the Jurassic knife is unquestionably built to handle real use. It's constructed incredibly solidly, almost tank-like in its robustness. Nonetheless, as dedicated collectors, we typically prefer to take excellent care of our gear. Right now, with the G10 scales installed, the knife weighs exactly 5.5 ounces. Once I switch over to these premium titanium scales, I anticipate the weight will increase slightly. We'll check that out precisely later on. For now, let's dive straight into the installation process. I'll show it through a time-lapse video, allowing you to clearly see the entire transformation and appreciate the final upgraded result of this fantastic Hinderer Jurassic knife. All right, after nearly half an hour of work, the titanium scales are finally installed and looking fantastic. As you probably noticed in the time-lapse footage, it took me quite a bit longer than expected to remove the pivot screw. This stubborn little screw right here. The reason it was so difficult is because it came secured with Loctite, that strong adhesive commonly used to prevent screws from accidentally loosening over time. Honestly, it turned out to be a huge pain. Even when using the specialized custom tools provided by Hinderer, it was still incredibly tough to break that seal. I really had to wrestle with it. The tools kept slipping out of my grip constantly and my fingers became increasingly fatigued, and by the end, they were seriously cramping up. In fact, I'm still feeling that discomfort right now. Realistically, this entire job should have taken me no more than about 8 minutes, but between the tough pivot screw and the slippery tools, it ended up taking way longer than it should have. Now, here's the kicker. I ultimately chose to install these titanium scales with the liners still on the knife. I'm fully aware that some of you might lose your minds over that choice, especially since the manufacturer specifically recommends removing the liners first and installing the titanium scales directly onto the knife's frame. But here's my reasoning. I personally love how the knife feels with the added weight. I genuinely prefer heavier knives. The slight increase in thickness from keeping the liners actually enhances the grip comfort significantly. We're talking just a couple of extra millimeters, yet it really does make a noticeable improvement in handling. Of course, I realize the liners are made of steel, which naturally adds some extra weight. But again, this added heft is exactly what I was looking for. Heavier knives simply feel more solid and substantial. More like serious, robust tools. With that extra weight, you feel like you can confidently apply more pressure without worrying about damaging the knife, which is something lighter knives typically don't offer to the same degree. Visually speaking, I personally think the result looks amazing. There is a tiny gap here. I'm honestly not sure if the G10 scales had this small gap too, but regardless, it's not sharp or uncomfortable in any way, and perhaps most importantly, the blade remains perfectly centered. Even with the additional thickness of the liners, everything still aligns beautifully. Now, are there any downsides to leaving the liners in place? Well, one slight drawback is that the screws don't thread as deeply into the knife as they would otherwise, since the liners add that bit of extra thickness. These screws are relatively short, so they're naturally grabbing fewer threads than usual. That said, I've tightened them down securely enough that there's absolutely no movement whatsoever. They're sitting flush with the surface, exactly how they should. The pivot screw is the only minor exception. It sticks out just slightly. Had I removed the liners, the pivot would sit perfectly flush. But honestly, that doesn't bother me in the slightest. I'd much rather enjoy the added weight and improved grip. Additionally, the pivot itself is nicely machined. It doesn't have any sharp edges or uncomfortable areas when touched. On the back side, it protrudes slightly as well, but I'm pretty sure that was already part of the original design. The pivot was likely always intended to sit just slightly proud of the handle on the back. Now, here's the real concern. Since the screws aren't fully threaded in, they might loosen over time. I don't know for sure. I'll have to see how it goes. If they do start loosening, I'll just apply a little blue Loctite and call it a day. Important note, never use red Loctite. It's permanent. Blue is perfect for this kind of thing, and if the pivot starts loosening, same deal, a bit of blue Loctite and it won't budge. I don't know what kind of Loctite they used at the factory, but it was strong. It had no color, but man, it was like red strength. That's why it took me so long to break it. With blue, it'll hold fine, but still be removable. Now, you might be wondering, did installing the titanium scales with the liners cause any blade play? None at all. It's rock solid. I'm really happy with the result. It added weight, looks better, and feels way more premium. Next, I'm thinking of getting some new screws to match. Maybe bronze to keep the theme going. Or maybe something different like green or yellow to mix things up. I could also swap out the clip. They sell those in a bunch of colors and designs too. That's one of the coolest things about Hinderer knives. Besides the top-tier design and tight tolerances, you can make it your own with color, texture, and style. If you use genuine parts, of course. Later, I might make another video with all my monsters showing how the color scheme evolves as I change out different parts. Even the tabs and the thumb studs are swappable. You can get them with designs or just solid colors, matte or polished. It's a high-end knife, and I'm beyond happy with the upgrade. Everything lined up perfectly, no issues, so I hope you guys enjoyed this full breakdown. My monsters and I thank you for sticking around to see how this beautiful Hinderer Jurassic evolved with a fresh set of bronze titanium scales. That's all for now. Wishing you all an awesome week. Until next time, everybody, thanks.